What up, nerds? Since Baldur's Gate 3 has come out recently, I decided to do a quick video on a basic, character creation here. It's gonna be just a quick tutorial on, creating your character, what you should be looking for, what kind of classes and races there are. So we're gonna get straight into it. We got the origins here. This is two different kinds of characters that you can make. You can make a custom one, so just what character you want to do from scratch, or you could do these origin characters, which is normally like a Larian Studios thing. They have characters with their own backstory, with their own personalities that you can choose to play as. These are also the companions that you get in the normal, playthrough, the campaign. So technically you're gonna meet all these guys anyways, except the Dark Urge. I think the Dark Urge is like a separate origin character. I usually just do a custom character just because I like playing as close to like myself as possible. I don't like using pre-generated characters. So we're gonna do a custom character. You can have Astarion, Lae'zel, Gale, Shadowheart, Will, Karlach, and the Dark Urge. But we're just gonna go custom for this quick tutorial. Unlike most games that usually has like a male and female option, you actually just choose the body type here. So I think this first one is actually a female, and the second one is male. And you have different options depending on what race you choose. So since we have Dragonborn here, if we do Elf, Elf has 4 types. Tiefling has 4 types, Drow's got 4, Humans has 4, mostly 4, Dwarf has 2, Halfling has 2, Gnome has 2, Dragonborn has 2, and Half-Orc has 2. So that's normally how you decide like male or female. It's usually just like build type. So if we start from Elf, they have their own race features. Every race has their own, bonuses to it. They got Elven Weapon Proficiency, or Elven Weapon Training that has proficiency with Longsword, Shortsword, Shortbow, and Longbow. Proficiency is just like a bonus to whatever item. So, if you're using a longsword, short sword, shortbow, or longbow, then you can hit enemies a lot better than if you didn't have proficiency. So it says proficiency represents whether you're trained in a weapon type, tool, or skill. Provides a bonus to associated rolls, making you more likely to succeed. So that's always a good thing to have, proficiency. Dark vision can see up to 12 meters. So light is usually like a big thing in D&D. If you want to be like a stealth character, or certain spells might have remove light or like add darkness. So if you have dark vision, then you can see in the dark a lot easier. And the elves have the Fey ancestry. They get advantage on saving throws against being charmed, and magic can't put you to sleep. It's always a nice little bonus to have. So usually advantage means that you can have 2 rolls, and you take the higher roll on whatever check that you're trying to succeed with. So it makes you more likely to succeed. You roll 2 dice and use the higher value. Saving throws, there's a whole bunch of different types of saving throws. We'll probably get into it as we get further into it. But it's just, determines whatever a target resists a spell or condition. So it's usually like, you might have a strength saving throw or dexterity saving throw, constitution. There's all different types. So that's the elves. And each race in like the actual story, they all kind of have their own little bonuses and dialogue with it. So like, if you chose an elf and you're having a dialogue with an elf, then maybe there's an opportunity for you to have like a certain dialogue option that other races wouldn't have. Like maybe a tiefling wouldn't have the same way, or maybe if you're like a drow, maybe the dialogue would be different. Maybe someone would be more hostile because you're a drow, but if you're an elf, then you'd be fine with whatever encounter. Like there's so many different opportunities for races to attribute to whatever situation that you're in. There's like so much replayability on this, guys. It's crazy. The tiefling race features 9 meters per turn. They can see 12 meters too, kind of the same thing as the elf. They also have hellish resistance. You have resistance to fire, taking only half damage from it. So if someone casts a spell on you with fire, then you're only taking half damage. Drow has got racial speed. They got drow weapon training for rapier, short sword, hand crossbow. And since they're same Fey ancestry, they get that saving throws against charm and immunity to sleep or whatever. Human, they got racial bonus speed 9 meters. Civil militia, they got weapon proficiencies on spears, pikes, halberds, and glaives, and armor proficiency with light armor and shields. So same thing as the general proficiency. They get like a bonus with spears, pikes, halberds, and glaives, and they get proficiency with armor and shields. Armor proficiency is obviously a little bit different than weapon proficiencies. It prevents armor and shield from blocking spellcasting or imposing disadvantage on attack rolls. So like if you weren't proficient on a certain armor and you were wearing that kind of armor, then you would have trouble casting spells, or you'd have like disadvantage on attack rolls because you're not used to wearing that type of armor. Githyanki, kind of a more unique race than what we've seen in previous editions. I'm a big like 3.5 edition, 3rd edition, and Githyanki usually wasn't like something you can choose. They got Astral Knowledge, gain proficiency in all skills of a chosen ability until long rest. Okay, just a quick summary of resting. There's long rest and short rest. Short rest, you get 2 rests per 1 long rest, so if you use 2 short rests, you gotta take a long rest to regain those short rests. And certain abilities and spells, they either replenish themselves by short resting or long resting. It'll usually tell you in the description. Short resting will also only recover a small amount of HP that you've lost. If you want to regain like all of your hit points in one go, you usually have to do a long rest. Short rest, I think it's only maybe like half of your maximum health maybe that you've lost. Cantrips, all of these are spells that you can cast at will, but they're like the weakest spells that you can cast. And by weak, I just mean like the lowest level. Like some of them are usually pretty good still. So cantrips, the Githyanki get this mage hand. So it says create an invisible spectral hand that can manipulate and interact with objects. So you can cast this hand that comes to life, and then you can like control it and make it move stuff around. You can like even pull levers or whatever that are away from you. So for this mage hand, it's basically just 10 turns. It'll disappear and then you can cast it again whenever you want. 18 meters is how far you can cast it from where you are. We also got the race features, 9 meters per turn. Martial Prodigy, a lifetime of Relentlessness gives you training to... Relentless Training gave you armor proficiency with light and medium, as well as proficiency with short sword, long sword, great sword, just like a bonus. We got the Dwarves, 7.5 meters per turn. They move much slower because they're a more smaller race. They're more stocky. Proficiency with Battle Axe, Hand Axe, Light Hammer, and Warhammer. They got Dark Vision too, Dwarven Resilience. You get advantage on saving throws against poison and resistance to poison damage. I think anytime it says you have resistance to poison, I think that usually means it's half. You always take half damage of whatever resistance you have. I'm pretty sure. But moving on to the half-elf, 9 meters per turn base movement, civil militia. Since they're, half human, half elf, they have like half human, half elf race features. So, this is the human feature that they have. They got dark vision for elves and Fey Ancestry. And Fey Ancestry. I was gonna say Ancestry. Fey Ancestry. So, nothing special with these guys. Then we got halflings. We got the base racial speed, 7.5 meters. They got lucky. If you roll a 1 for an attack, ability check, or saving throw, you can re-roll the die and make and must use the new roll. They got proficiencies here. Every race has like different ones. You can see it on here. We're moving on to gnome, 7.5 meters per turn. Pretty slow. Gnome cunning, you got advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws. That's pretty good. Look at this dude. I feel like I've seen this guy's face before. He looks familiar. Nothing that much with gnomes. Moving on to Dragonborn. They got 9 meters per turn race speed. These guys got a couple of different things here. I'm pretty sure they have like a dragon breath. Oh, is this here? Oh, acid breath. Here you go. So you can choose what kind of Dragonborn you can be. There's like different Dragonborns. So if you go onto Subrace, there's like black Dragonborn, there's blue. And then choosing whatever one would associate a different elemental breath. So as a brass Dragonborn, they have fire breath. Bronze is, lightning. Blue is lightning too. Black's acid. So they got a couple different ones. Each race kind of has their own sub-race too. So, we'll kind of get into that. We'll just check half-orc last. These guys got 9 meters per turn. They got dark vision. Relentless endurance. If you reach 0 hit points, you regain 1 hit point instead of becoming downed. So when you reach 0 hit points, you become downed or unconscious. And you have to make rolls to either stabilize or become sort of semi-permadeath, where someone has to revive you. But if you succeed those rolls, then you just stop bleeding out, but someone still has to pick you up. So this Relentless Endurance basically just lets you get up on your own without the help. It's just like a second life, kind of. I'm assuming there's probably some sort of limit on this. I'm not too sure. I haven't tried a half-orc before. And they also have Savage Attack. When you land a critical hit with a melee weapon, your damage dice are tripled instead of doubled. So usually when you have a critical hit, you roll a 20 on your attack roll, and then that basically doubles the damage that you can do. But for this attack, it triples instead of doubles. So if you do, 12 damage, normally you do 24 damage, but with this you do 36 damage. So those are all the races, and they have their own, little abilities and features. Alright, we're gonna move on to the sub-race. So each race has their own sub-race, and the sub-race kind of determines the bonuses that you get. So you get like bonuses for being a certain race, and then different kinds of bonuses for the sub-race. So for High Elf, Heirs of the Mystical, Feywood, High Elves value magic in all its forms. Wood Elf's a little bit different. They spend their reclusive lives in Faerun's forest. So as a Wood Elf, your movement speed increases by 1.5 meters. But if you choose High Elf, then you get this cantrip, this fire cantrip. If you choose Tiefling, Tiefling's got like Asmodeus Tiefling, you got Mephistopheles Tiefling and Zerial Tiefling. It'll kind of give you a description here, then the bonuses will be different. So Mephistopheles Tiefling gets Mage Hand as a cantrip, so you know, the hand that you can make actions with, you can like pull levers, you can move things around, whatever. This Zerial Tiefling gets Thaumaturgy, gain advantage on intimidation and performance checks. Again, advantage, you just roll 2 dice, you take the high one. And Asmodeus is the Produce Flame. Flame in your hand sheds a light in a 9 meter radius and deals 1 fire damage when thrown. So that's the Tiefling one. We have the Drow one. This is Lothsorn and Seldarine. So my playthrough is a Seldarine Drow, so he's not like as evil. And in some dialogue options, I have Seldarine Drow. So depending on what race you choose, there's going to be a lot of different interactions with the you know, characters around the Forgotten Realms land. So these particular ones don't really get any bonuses. It's just kind of more of like a backstory. Humans, they don't have a subrace. We got the Githyanki, they don't have it. Dwarves, they got Goldorf, Shield Dwarf, and Duger. Dugers, they got the resilience here, they got the advantage. They also got Dark Vision. Shield Dwarf is Dwarven armor trading with light and medium armor. Goldorf, Dwarven toughness, your maximum or your hit point maximum increases by 1, increases by 1 again every time you gain a level. Oh, that's nice. Very tank-like, it's very tanky. High half elf actually. So they got the cantrip as the bonus, wood half elf. They got the fleet of foot, same thing as the elves or drow half elf. They get dancing lights. Halfling, they got lightfoot, strong heart. They gotta get ghostwise on here. Give me a ghostwise halfling. This is, what is it? Strong heart, resilience, advantage on saving throws against poison. Yeah, we've seen that. This is advantage on stealth checks. We also got gnome, rock gnome, forest gnome, and deep gnome. They also got camouflage. They got superior dark vision. This one, you can speak to animals. So this one has the long rest here. Recharge once per long rest. That basically means when you use it to get the spell back, you're going to have to take a long rest. Short rest is not going to work. And until long rest means that when you cast it, you can use it repeatedly until a long rest basically. Then it just resets, then you're going to have to cast it again. And then you can just use it as many times as you want until a long rest. That's also a nice spell to have, speak with animals, because there's a lot of animals in the land. I've noticed there's so many animals. I was considering choosing a ranger or a druid. Rock gnome, they got artificial's lore. Add twice your proficiency bonus to history checks. They got dark vision. And also I did notice when I was doing my playthrough, there are certain areas that only smaller stature creatures can go to. There's like little holes or like little burrows that you can go into, which I thought was really cool. Again guys, like the replayability on this is pretty nuts. We got the Dragonborn. We actually looked at the Dragonborn already. Half-orc, they don't really have it. So that's pretty much the races and sub-races. We'll just stick with half-orc for now. Here the classes, we got Barbarian, Bard, Cleric, Druid, Fighter, Monk, Paladin, Ranger, Rogue, Sorcerer, Warlock, and Wizard. You know, if you know anything about like fantasy, D&D, you kind of already have an idea of like what these classes are, like in a nutshell. So you know, Barbarians usually like the savage fighters. They got Rage here. And unarmored defense. While not wearing armor, you add your constitution modifier to your armor class. Wearing heavy armor impedes your rage. So I guess to quickly explain like modifiers and armor class, I think it's called the score, like your ability score. That's 17, 13, 15. So that your strength score is 17, your dexterity score is 13. The modifier is what we're going to use majority of the time for like rolls and stuff. So the modifier for strength is +3. Usually you can tell by every 2 points after 10 is +1 on the modifier. So 10 is the average, that's 0 modifier. And then when you get 12, let's say 12 strength, you'll get +1. 14 strength will be +2, 16 +3. And the odd numbers of the score, so like 15, 17, 19, it's taking the lower end of the modifier. And your armor class always defaults at 10. And then you add like your dexterity modifier and then your armor and shield and stuff. So for that Barbarian unarmored defense feat, it adds your constitution modifier along with your default 10 AC and the dexterity modifier. So since we have 13 dexterity, it's only +1 modifier, and then we're adding constitution, that's only +2 because it's 15. So we would have 13 armor class altogether. So for bards, they're like musicians. You know, if you watch the Dungeons and Dragons movie, this is a Chris Pine's character. Although Chris Pine looks nothing like friggin' Shrek over here. So they can do a little bit of everything. Bards are usually a pretty good class. Their cantrips are Vicious Mockery, has disadvantage on its next attack roll. Disadvantage is basically just, you know, you roll 2 dice, but you take the lower value as opposed to advantage checks where you choose the higher one. So like this makes you have to have your enemy roll 2 attack rolls, they take the lower one. We got the Blade Ward spell here. It lasts for 2 turns, and you take only half damage from bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage. So like all different types of weapons have different damage types. So like, you know, certain swords might have slashing, certain daggers would have like piercing, and if you had like clubs or hammers, those would be bludgeoning damage. We also got level 1 spells here. We got healing, Dissonant Whispers, Tasha's Hideous Laughter, and Heroism. You could probably figure out what some of these do. Like the descriptions I think are pretty good. Also, they have concentration here. So concentration, caster needs to focus on maintaining the spell. They can only cast 1 concentration spell at a time, and their concentration might be broken when they take damage. So if you cast a spell, and you know it hits an enemy and they're laughing, they're on prone with laughter. If you get hit, you have to make a check to see if you can withstand that hit and still focus on the spell. Or if you can't, if you fail the roll, then the spell breaks, and whoever was affected by the spell no longer is affected by it. There's also these caveats here too. The creature must have an intelligence of 5 or more. Usually you could just examine a whole bunch of NPCs and it gives you like their abilities and whatnot. Like it'll show you a pretty good, you know, detail of their stats and stuff. So you can kind of figure out like, oh, I can't use this on this NPC because his intelligence is more than 5. Or less than 5 actually, well, you know, whatever. Wisdom save means when you cast a spell, whoever you're casting it on has to make this saving throw. They have to use the wisdom as their bonus. So they roll a d20, add their wisdom modifier, and then if it beats this spell difficulty class 13, then the spell has no effect on them. If it's lower than the spell difficulty class, then it affects them. We got the range here, a level 1 spell slot. So however many spell slots you have in that spell tier is how many spells you can cast. So let's say you had 3 level 1 spell slots, you can cast Tasha's Hideous Laughter 3 times, or a mix of the level 1 spells 3 times. And if you have higher level spell slots, you can upcast the lower spells to do, you know, better damage or better healing, whatever the effects are. So that's quickly spells. Action here, we got Bardic Inspiration, inspire an ally to add a 1d6 bonus to their next attack roll, ability check, or saving throw until long rest. It's also a bonus action, so there's different types of actions that you can do. There's like a normal action, which is like, you know, you would see it here, like action. So this is an action. This is like your main type of action. This is how you normally attack. This is usually your attack option. So there's like 4 different actions you can do. There's like an action, which that's how you normally attack or cast spells. There's a bonus action, which can be like drinking a potion or casting certain spells or using certain abilities. There's a movement action that's specific for movement, and there's a reaction, which that's more of like during an enemy's turn. If they do something that might cause your character to react, like counterattack. Certain feats and certain spells can do that. So like you can't do 2 actions unless you have some ability to allow you to do 2. So for this is a bonus action, so you could attack someone and then use this after, or use this before and then attack someone. Like there's no real order for these 3 actions. You could just, you know, do it whenever it's your turn. So that lasts until long rest. They got Bardic Inspiration, 18 meters. They got class features here. So this is you gain 2 level 1 spell slots, which are restored on a long rest. So that means you can use 2 level 1 spells until you have to do a long rest. Cleric. Cleric's a good mix of like, you know, combat and tanky healing kind of thing. Like they're kind of like a do it all sort of thing. They got cantrips too. They got resistance, guidance, and a sacred flame. Guidance is amazing because you can use it during dialogue checks. Like if you're trying to persuade someone, you can just like use this at any time. Unlimited times, since there's no real time for this. You could just use it whenever you want as a cantrip. Then they have their own spells here too. You know, I guess we don't have to really look at this since they're all sort of the same. You can kind of, if you understand like certain spells, then everything else kind of makes sense. They got 2 level 1 spell slots, and they got spells from their domain. So, you know, they have different domains here. They got life domain, light domain, trickery, and then choosing a specific domain will give you their own type of spells. So trickery gets charm person and disguise self. Knowledge gets you command and sleep. Light domain gets you, you know, this light, burning hands, fairy fire. Tempest is different. You know, a war is different. There's so much customization to this, guys. It's crazy. So, you know, whatever suits you, whatever you think you might like. Maybe trickery if you want to do more like a stealth build. You know, you could disguise self. since they get this as like a free trickery domain spell, or war is more combat based. You know, whatever floats your boat. You know, there's so many different options for you. So that's Cleric. We also got Druid. They got their own cantrips. They got Shillelagh, or Shillelagh, or Shillalag. I don't even know how to pronounce it. They got Thorn Whip. They got level 1 spells here too. Druids can also wild shape too, but I think it's like a level 2 thing. I don't think you get it till level 2. And as you level up the Druid, you get more and more shapes. Moving on to fighters. They get Second Wind. You can heal yourself. Drawing your stamina. It's a bonus action too, so you can attack and then heal yourself if you wanted to. They also got fighting styles, or different fighting styles. You get +2 bonus to ranged weapon if you're an archery master. Defense, you get +1 armor class while wearing armor. Dueling, for melee weapon, it's not two-handed or versatile. You get to deal additional 2 damage. They got great weapon fighting, protection, 2 weapon fighting. So that's fighter. They all get like more stuff as you level, but it's only showing you like the level 1 stuff. So I know it doesn't look like a lot, but you know, fighter's pretty good. They get a lot better stuff as you go on. We also got monk. This is the class I chose my first playthrough. They got flurry of blows. You can do 2 punches as a bonus action. You got key points. Key points are pretty much just like spell slots. So you have certain abilities that use up key points. When you use up all your key points, then you have to take a short rest, I think, instead of a long rest. Then you can recoup those points and use the abilities again. They also have unarmored defense. That's kind of like the barbarian one, but this is wisdom modifier instead of constitution modifier. They got dexterous attacks. They use dexterity instead of strength. They got depth strikes and unarmed bonus, or a bonus unarmed strike. They didn't have this class in the early access, which is why I chose it the first playthrough. Next is Paladin. Paladin's pretty unique in their playthrough because their subclasses, they have oaths. They have 3 different oaths, and you have to like follow the code or oath of whatever one you chose. So there's Oath of Vengeance, Devotion, and Ancients. Each kind of have their own code you have to follow. If you don't follow that code and you break one of the rules of the oath, there's a chance you become an oath breaker, which is just like another subclass of paladin, but you just can't like choose it. You have to actually do something against your oath. So this is Oath of Vengeance. You have set aside even your own purity to right wrongs and deliver justice to those who have committed the most grievous sins. This is Oath of Devotion. Following the ideal of the knight in shining armor, you act with honor and virtue to protect the weak and pursue the greater good. So if there's a situation where you like turn your back on the weak, then maybe you become an oath breaker for the Oath of Devotion. Oath of the Ancients. You fight the side of light in the cosmic struggle against the darkness, preserve sanctity of life and the beauty of nature. So they get healing radiance. You can heal yourself and all nearby allies for 5 hit points. It shows you basically like the oath, the general oath of it. So this is paladins abide by the following tenets: courage, stride dauntlessly into action. This is Oath of Vengeance. This is Inquisitor's Might. Deal an additional 2 radiant damage and can daze enemies for 1 turn. Well, that's pretty good. This is Fight the Greater Evil and No Mercy for the Wicked. I'm kind of curious about this class. I kind of want to try this out. We also have Ranger. They get True Strike as a cantrip. Beast Tamer, you can summon a familiar, a face spirit that takes an animal form of your choosing. So Rangers, they also get Favored Enemy. So choosing whatever, job you are, you'll get different bonuses. So Bounty Hunter. If you choose Bounty Hunter, you get proficiency in investigation. Creatures you hit with ensnaring strike, either ranger or melee, have disadvantage on their saving throws. Keeper of the Veil gets protection from good and evil. Find Familiar is just from Beast Tamer. Proficiency in Arcana, I can cast True Strike. You got Ranger Knight, gain proficiency in History and Armor proficiency with Heavy Armor. Sanctified Stalker, proficiency with Religion and cast Sacred Flame. They also got Natural Explorer. This is like usually the environment that you've gotten used to as a Ranger. So as a Beast Tamer, you have cultivate a strong bond with animals. You can cast Find Familiar without expending a spell slot. You got Urban Tracker. You got proficiency in Sleight of Hand. A Wasteland Wanderer. Cold, you get cold resistance. This is fire resistance for like the desert. This was resist the poison for the fetid swamps that you've gotten used to for your character. So a lot of options for Ranger. Rogue, not as much. They got sneak attack, ranged and melee attack. So you just do an extra set of damage. So it says deal extra damage to a foe you have advantage against. Also works if you have an ally within 1.5 meters of the target and you don't have disadvantage. So it's kind of like a backstab, Backstab or like flanking. Flanking is like a normal D&D thing. We got Sorcerer, we got some more spells here. You could choose the cantrips and the level 1 spells. Subclasses for Sorcerers, you get Wild Magic. This is activate to gain advantage on your next attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, increases chance of Wild Magic. So Wild Magic is a pretty unique function that only applies to the Wild Magic Sorcerer and the Barbarian. If you choose one of those subclasses and you Barbarian Rage or you cast a level 1 spell or higher, there's a chance that a random effect could happen like on the battlefield or to you or your allies or the enemy. Like it's a random effect that could either be positive or negative. Draconic Bloodline. So this is like your character has the blood of like a dragon, so you have like dragon qualities. Dragon-like scales cover parts of your skin when you aren't wearing armor. Your base armor class is 13, and you get a hit point maximum increase by 1 for each sorcerer level. That's pretty good. And as you level up, you get like more, draconic stuff. They also got Storm Sorcery here. So this is Tempestuous magic. That's a sick. When have you ever used Tempestuous? What a word. After you cast a level 1 spell or higher, you can fly as a bonus action until the end of our turn without receiving attacks of opportunity. So usually attacks of opportunity or opportunity attacks is like if you're within striking distance of an enemy and you try to move away from the enemy, you get they get an attack of opportunity against you. So it's like a free hit basically. So with this Tempestuous magic, then they don't have the free attacks. If you're like passing by them or if you're trying to run away from them, they don't have that option. So that's good to have. Warlocks, they get the Fiend, the Great Old One, and the Archfey. So the Fiend gets armor of Agathis. They get Arms of Hater, Arms of Bill Hater here, and the Dark One's Blessing. If you want to do the Old Great One, they get Dissonant Whispers, Tasha's Hideous Laughter. They get the Mortal Reminder. When you land a critical hit against a creature, that creature and any nearby instance succeed in a Wisdom saving throw or become frightened until the end of their next turn. That's pretty cool. Or the Archfey, Fairy Fire, or Sleep. And they get the Fey Presence. So a lot of customization, guys. There are so many different paths that you can take. Let's go Wizard last. They have their spells here. They get Arcane Recovery. So when you're not in combat, you can restore spell slots up to 5th level. So instead of doing a long rest to get your spells back, you can use this Arcane Recovery. But you can only do it, a certain amount of times until you have to recover the Arcane Recovery. These also have subclasses. When you reach like level 3, then you get different spell schools. So in spells, there's Level 1 Abjuration here. So this is a different school. Abjuration is a school. Conjuration is a school. And then choosing that subclass, you might get bonuses on certain spells from that school. So that's all the classes. Moving on to backgrounds, we're almost done, guys. We got different types of backgrounds here. We got the Acolyte, Charlatan, Criminal, Entertainer, Folk Hero, Guild Artisan, Noble, Outliner, Sage, Soldier, and Urchin. So each background has different bonuses to their skills. So Criminal, they get bonuses on Deception and Stealth, they get +3. Entertainer, Acrobatics and Performance. Folk Hero, you can get Animal Handling and Survival. This is all available for the same race or class that you choose. Like it's all the same options every time. Also in the world, there's like different events or encounters that you can go through. If your background associates with that particular event or encounter, then you get inspiration for it. And inspiration can either give you a chance to re-roll certain skill checks that you might have failed, or if you have the maximum amount of inspiration points, if you get like another point on top of that, then I think you get like a bonus XP for it. So for one of my playthroughs, I chose a Outlander. I grew up in the wilds, learned to survive far off the comforts of civilization. So there's a certain point in which you can either, help or fight owlbear, like an owlbear's family, this animal. If you encounter that and finish up that event, then you get an inspiration from that, because that's like wilderness things. Then we got abilities here. So whatever class that you choose, it'll usually tell you like your primary ability. So like right now I'm a wizard. So wizards need intelligence. Primary ability. This is the most important ability for your class. It influences your chance to hit and your damage output with weapon attacks or spells. So if I were to choose, a barbarian, then this would change to strength. So usually whatever like your primary ability is, you would try to like put the most points in that, since that's the most useful for your class. So for paladin, they would have strength, but like certain classes, it might be good. They might have like secondary options too. Strength might be the primary one, but as a paladin, it also says charisma is important too. Improves spellcasting for bards, paladins, sorcerers, and warlocks. So that's why, like, by default, the charisma is like the second highest, strength is the highest. Even if the attribute isn't your primary or secondary, it still has its uses. Like, wisdom is used to resist certain spells or anything involving like willpower. Intelligence is used for like knowledge checks. Dexterity adds to your armor class and how easily it is to dodge spells. And all attributes are associated with different skill checks too. They also give you a +2 and a +1 that you can add to anything. You can't put both on a single ability though, so you can't put 1 and 2 on strength. It has to be like 2 and 1 somewhere. They also got skill proficiencies, so if you change that, you can add 2 proficiencies here. It says 2 out of 2. It also shows you inherited from background, you know, kind of show you where you get these bonuses from. So this is granted from race. You can add, you know, insight, gets you +2, +2. This is +5, so you know, kind of it just gives you like a +2 bonus. But yeah, all these skills have their own uses. Like there's just really like no going wrong with a lot of this stuff. It's basically just like your own preference, but generally you would try to go for skills that makes the most sense for your character. So that was the basics of 5th edition D&D character creation for Baldur's Gate 3. Don't be surprised if you're making a character it takes you like an hour, cause trust me, that's the same for me. There's a whole lot of other cool stuff in game. Maybe we'll get to that another time. Leave a like and comment down below if you want to see or learn more about that. But we'll leave it for now. Leave a comment down below on what kind of builds you guys made, because I want to play this game like 4 or 5 times just to try different playthroughs. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you learned a thing or two. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, peace out, you nerds.